So what does looking after your gut really mean, and why is it so important or even relevant? Well, first of all, looking after your gut simply means to ensure that your stomach and the bacteria that live inside of it are healthy so that they can do their job properly. The billions of bacteria, which are about 1.5 kilos in total, that live inside our bodies are called the microbiome. We all develop different microbial communities depending upon our genes, our diets, and any other bacteria we come into contact with. Over 95% of our bacteria live in our gut, mainly in our large intestine. So why is this important? Well, it's important because together they help regulate our immune system, our weight, and can also affect our mood. Crazy, isn't it? Unfortunately, many of us do not have a healthy gut microbiome. In the short term, an unbalanced microbiome can lead to inflammation and leaky gut, which slows the production of neurotransmitters and can affect many areas of the brain's function. This can result in things such as depression, anxiety, insomnia, fatigue, brain fog, memory issues, and confusion. The longer this inflammation goes on, the more serious the implications become, leading to things such as neurodegenerative disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, asthma, and so forth. It also leads to the not so obvious inflammatory bowel diseases, including colitis, Crohn's, and different types of cancer. And we see this reflected in the explosion of chronic disease rates the world over. So why do many of us have such unhealthy guts? Well, there are lots of reasons, but much of it has to do with what you eat. To look after your gut microbiome, we really need to do two main things. The first thing is to maintain a diverse array of bacteria in our gut. Tasty, interesting, and varied foods is the way to go here. And number two, eat foods which end up in our large intestine. You need to have the fiber to feed the bacteria. Unfortunately, in today's fast-paced and ever time-poor way of living, processed foods seem to have replaced a healthy and balanced diet. Here's the problem. If we're eating processed foods, then A, we are not feeding our microbes, so our gut ecosystem becomes less diverse. This is because most processed foods are all the same. They're high in sugar, salt, artificial colors and flavors, preservatives, and contain no beneficial bacteria. Essentially, they're dead food. And B, processed or sugary foods are usually absorbed into the body before they even make it to the large intestine, meaning that they starve our healthy gut bacteria whilst feeding the bad bacteria. Okay, so let's talk about how to look after your gut. Did you know that your microbiome somewhat settled within the first 3 years of life? And broadly speaking, you inherited it from your mum. The good news is that you can change what lives inside of your gut, and you can do this by changing what you eat. And there are lots of foods which provide the nutrients which those little microbes need. Which brings me on to prebiotics versus probiotics. Whilst they may sound the same, they are different, and it's important to understand the difference. So what is the difference between the two? Prebiotics are simply the food source for probiotics. Prebiotics are good live bacteria and yeasts essential for our health, especially our gut health. Therefore, prebiotics are needed for probiotics to flourish. Foods high in dietary fiber are the best prebiotics. This includes things like leeks, onions, garlic, asparagus, Jerusalem artichokes are really good, as is chicory root, raspberries, green peas, chickpeas, whole grains are excellent as well. Foods high in resistant starch are also great for your gut. And resistant starch can't be digested by your body and becomes food for your gut bacteria. And it's found in starchy plant foods such as legumes, including beans, so most different types of beans, pinto, white, etc. Fruits such as bananas, vegetables such as potatoes, rice, whole grain rice. Be sure to introduce any of these foods into your diet slowly, as they may cause bloating and gas in the beginning. You also need to increase your water intake. You're looking at about 2 liters of water per day on average if you're consuming more fiber. As a general rule, you should be aiming to get around 25 grams of fiber per day, and unfortunately most Australians are about half of that amount, with many of us below 5 grams per day. In regards to probiotics, the best forms are fermented or cultured foods. In fact, fermented foods actually contain both pre and probiotics, making them symbiotic, meaning the prebiotic specifically acts on the probiotic present. Some of the most common and best fermented foods include yogurt, okay? Something I eat pretty much every day, awesome. Which is fermented milk with, lactic acid, bacteria. Kefir is a probiotic beverage made with grains or a starter culture, which is usually added to either dairy, coconut or rice milk, and even coconut water. I used to make it all the time. I haven't got any more here, but you can buy it from most supermarkets these days. Also, sauerkraut is excellent, which is really just pickled and finely cut cabbage, which has been fermented in a brine of its own juice and put with salt. And kombucha as well. So that's a fermented prebiotic drink. So you can see here, I've got one here. And it's put with a SCOBY, okay? So this is called a SCOBY. Looks pretty gross, I know. That stands for symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeast. And so kombucha has become really popular, and for good reason. It's easy to make and delicious and packed full of probiotic goodness. We make our own little bottles and take them to work or whatever. Other great fermented foods include things like kimchi, which is a fermented vegetable product from Korea, miso and natto, which is Japanese, as well as temp, which is Indonesian, and all are fermented soy products. Probiotics are also available in pill or capsule form. However, natural sources are always best here. Please note, if you have a depressed immune system, e.g. if you have cancer or another illness, then you should talk to your doctor before eating any probiotics, as doing so may cause infection. And if you're unsure, then it's always best to get individual expert advice before making any changes to your diet. Also, research shows that getting enough quality sleep and exercising is also crucial to maintaining a healthy gut too, something which I've always heavily endorsed. On the flip side to all of this, there are also a lot of things that we shouldn't be doing in order to look after our gut too. For example, we should avoid consuming artificial sweeteners, which are in lots of processed foods. Fried foods, like fried chips, as well as most processed foods in general, which are usually high in sugar, salt, artificial colors, flavors, preservatives, all of which do nothing good for your gut. Avoid taking antibiotics unless absolutely necessary. Quit smoking, and the trickiest one of all, stop stressing. And so what's the take-home message of all of this? Well, what is clear is that an awful lot of diseases and other conditions where the body is effectively attacking itself have all dramatically risen over the past 50 years or so, and continue to do so at an alarming rate. And this is largely because our guts are not full of the right sorts of microbes as they once were. But the good news is that many of these diseases and conditions can be avoided simply by looking after your gut bacteria. And as an added bonus, all of the good foods which feed your gut microbes are also associated with slimness, meaning that if you eat them, then you are less likely to put on weight, something which most of us need a helping hand with today. So how effectively are you looking after your gut?
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to learn more about the other essential attributes of staying in your best shape. And until next time, watch what you chew, do what you need to do, and always live true.